Hello and welcome back to our continuation of the Let's Defend SOC exercises. Two left, and then we're waiting for some sort of follow-up of new alerts, or you guys are stuck listening to me go through various things or any sort of topic you guys can suggest. I'm all ears. You guys need to know anything, want to know anything, just reach out, let me know. Okay, so this is a SOC102 EventID 5 Proxy Suspicious URL Detected Alert, dated August 29th, 2020 at 10:50 p.m. or 22:50 local time, if you like the 24-hour clock. As per standard operating procedure, I'm going to go collect the relevant information as it's provided, and we will start taking a look. Anybody who's watched the previous video that's been put out, right off the bat, the requested URL is the same thing that we ended up finding in the base64 encoded aspect that PowerShell was calling. As it happens, I still have that pulled up. So basically the whole encoded string, or it's effectively the decoded base64 strings all up here at the top. And what I had started to do in the last exercise was run through and manually go through and start decoding all these, but figured it's like, oh, I'm not seeing what there was evidence of. So I just kind of gave up. But thankfully I left it here, finished decoding the rest of them. So at least for the particular sample that we were working with, there's the IPs, yeah. There's the URLs. But at the very top of the list is the call to qstride.com/img/0. So this automatically tells me that this is going to be a continuation of Emotet. At this particular point, just burn the whole organization to the ground and start fresh. Nuke and pave every machine. Although I think a majority of them end up being on quarantined as it is now, as I've worked my way through all these. Okay, so I've got all this dumped in here. The very first thing we'll start with, just to confirm, is we're going to take that requested URL. We're going to go to URL hosts. Going to dump it in, and what do we get? Confirmation that it is Emotet, and that at least it is offline currently. Good. No further threat. Dump it into virus total, and we get more of the same. Not so much spelling out that it's Emotet unless it's done in the community. Yeah, Emotet. Okay. But we have multiple vendors that are detecting this as 2 months ago as being malware. Although, interestingly, I don't know what this Cartago is, but phishing. Force point is suspicious. Here, just for metaphorical S and S, or S and G, actually. Shits and giggles. Okay, so refresh. Cartago still says phishing. Komodo says phishing, but still overwhelming malware. So let's go take a look at the logs. Now, the interesting aspect is, and I will probably have to talk to, or bring it to Let's Defend's notice, is that we have actions going out, but this is a get from Chrome to pull down some sort of image. So this is supposed to be Mike's PC, but if we go to endpoints, or Mike's computer, with the username of Mike01, is in fact sitting at 172.16.17.14, not the source address listed of 172.148.17.14. Now, that does not mean that obviously the IP address may not or wouldn't have changed inside the organization, hopping back and forth, everything else like that. But we don't see any sort of evidence of that. It's only until we go and grab the IP address from the endpoint section and dump that in there. Oops. Do we end up getting first the hit that brings us this alarm, and then the subsequent follow-up to an IP address from a process called Razor. Now, I have never seen Razor as any sort of legitimate executable on a system. So, I mean, this is obviously going to be Emotet. Oh, look at that. Nothing found. Also, the whole aspect of taking the URL, run it through our two primary mainstays of sandboxing, hybrid analysis, we get a lot of stuff. I don't suppose it actually tells us like how many? Well, enough that there's multiple pages. Okay, this is going all the way back to August 29th. So what's the last August 29th submission that was made? Or are these all August 29th? No, there's 30. Oh wait, we have a hash for this document. Nope. Okay, so that document was not observed. Okay, so where was the last August 29th one? So obviously it ran, it did its thing. Network analysis. What do we have? 198.100.45.154. If we go back to logs, nope, that's a 67. So it may not necessarily be this sample. But I think we've got enough off here that we can call this. Okay, let's do this. In fact, I want to leave that right there. But what if we just take and just verify that? Nothing for that. Well, hoopla. Same thing for public submissions on any.run, just using the gstride.com domain to be touched. 3 pages worth of detections. So I'd say we've got enough here to warrant that this is indeed malicious. But since we've got this here, let's just do a search for the hash that we've got. Nothing there. Okay, so we're doing this all strictly by domain. So let's see, browser history, no browser history, which is kind of like what we'd expect. And we take a look in command history. This alert fired at, wow, that's a disparity between, it's supposed to be the 29th, which this is, but this alert fired at 10:50. It looks like this started to run at 10:29. So what was the machine doing for, what, 21 minutes? Before it actually sat there and signaled that. So there's a little bit of oddity with this exercise. The source address doesn't match what Mike's computer is. If they're running DHCP, that's really not that big of a surprise, although there is nothing in the logs that translates to the gstride.com. But we do have confirmation because the 198.145.154 at 28 on the 29th corresponds with that document executing. And then that 67, 68, 20, 210, 95 would be the actual IP address / URL to go and pull down the Emotet payload. And then obviously if we take a look at the process list, we've got our nice and tidy Word document. Interesting the fact that it's actually inside program files. And then we've got our PowerShell that's kicked off and is part of the issue with downloading all this garbage. So workstation's already requested containment from a previous exercise. Good. But from this, we have a decent amount of info. We got a hash for the Razor to go through and block, even though VirusTotal hasn't seen it. So we've got a bunch of information here, enough that we can actually confirm that yes, this was a bad thing to happen. So we've done the relevant research. We will take ownership. Check back over just to make sure. Okay, yeah, it's not listed there. Good, good, good. Okay, so we've done all the stuff, so let's answer the questions. Destination URL. Okay, we're going to grab the entirety of the agent string. We will verify Mozilla is at the starting point, since that's been an issue. Now we run into our first quandary. We find from the logs that the IP address given for EventID 5, the 172.148.17.14, does not correspond with anything that's there. Instead, it's 172.16.17.14. So rather than just blindly following, I am going to use that as the source address. Now, mind you, this is different than what was on the initial page that was recorded. So we go, and we've analyzed the URL in URL house, VirusTotal. So we've done enough that we've got enough indicators that yes, this is indeed malicious. All right, so we have the URL address. And we have so many other fun things to share. At least from looking at Mike's PC. So there's going to be a second URL address for the download. We are going to have two different IP addresses. So it's qstride. And we go back to here and we take the 168 or 67.68.212. There's the payload. We go back to logs. We take a look at that one so we can grab the whole address. And we dump that inside here. And Emotet payload. And we're going to have a couple of different MD5s. So we want the Word doc. Label that as maldoc. Then we want the process for that raster. Razor. Okay, so we've got the IP addresses, we've got the URLs, we've got the maldoc, and the actual malware load itself. Has anyone accessed this? Yes. Workstation's already in containment. We'll finish the playbook. And we will process. So this is indeed a true positive. Emotet confirmed. Emotet infection. Workstation needs a nuke and pave. And user requires additional training. And true positive. And what shakes out the other side? That is the question. So let's see, where is this down here? Hi. Okay, yeah, I'm going to take this. I mean, it's 2 points, but still. So the source IP address, I think, is messed up in that portion. So if you've gone through and done this exercise and gotten the same results, I would say you might need to sit there and raise, not a huge stink, but just a minor stink with Let's Defend. And then same thing with the user agent. I confirmed the whole thing. I figured before the previous exercises I had done that maybe I just kind of cut out the M in Mozilla. But I just verified that whole thing was in there before actually going through and doing the submission. So I'm going to raise, again, not a big stink, just a minor one. I mean, this is a rather ambitious project, and I don't know how big the team is, anything else like that. So there's going to be little hits and misses all over the place. But I mean, for what it is currently, I would say this is still a highly recommended platform, especially if you want to get into, being a SOC analyst. And what I'm showing you is close to just scratching the surface of how far you could go down this rabbit hole of doing everything. I mean, but there is a particular section where you get a point of diminishing returns for how far you're digging. Usually, and again, this will depend as to how the organization is set up with your particular SOC. They may want just enough to have enough intel to act on and be fairly confident that, okay, the bad actors are going to be swept out in the event that something gets in. Not dig it down to getting hashes for every individual executable that's there. Although if they've got whitelisting deployed throughout the environment on servers and workstations, that may be a benefit. In this particular case, considering the fact that we're talking about something that was, an alert that's a couple of months old now, it's going to be less useful. I mean, the documents are indeed detected now. So if somebody were to say they got the email, they did bother to open up the document, I would hazard a guess that those domains are not going to have anything more for it. But since our whole purpose is to basically operate with defense in depth, cover all the bases, get as far down as you can go. So I will raise issue with the results here, and then I will see everybody in the next SOC exercise video. Sad thing is, I think this is second to last one, yeah. So until they put out more exercises, I might go silent for a while, guys. Unless I hear some sort of, or get some sort of feedback in regards to, what you guys would want to sit there um, and have videos done in. I mean, if you guys want to sit there and, if you get this far into the video and you hear this request, you guys have questions. If I get enough of them, I can sit there and basically just do a viewer response video to the comments that you guys leave or questions or anything else like that. But rather than just go through and read comments in terms of, good job, I like this, or just, the like with the thumbs up, I'd rather have it be that something we can turn into at least an educational aspect in terms of maybe being able to elaborate more on any questions you guys might have or anything else like that. So again, that's the end of this exercise, and I will see everybody in the next one.